Hey, I'm Robert Rushing.
And I'm Joe Brown.
And we're
the Old Government Guys.
Old Government Guys is a podcast where we seek to highlight ordinary feds who do extraordinary things and shed light on and recognize your friends, family, and neighbors who comprise the government workforce. Often their work goes unnoticed, and we want to put a face on your fellow feds and share with you their stories and accomplishments in a fun and respectful way. Hey, Old Government Guy Robert here. Welcome to episode 10, Double Digits, Who Would Have Thunk It? In this episode, we will chat with Teresa Elhabr, who tells us about her career, and then later in the episode, we'll have Gary Jackson tell us a funny story, or as I like to say, don't mess with Gary on April Fool's Day. Welcome to episode 10, and thanks for tuning in. If you know someone we should highlight, be sure to reach out and send us an email to ogg@rapidpointstudio.com. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe for the latest updates from the Old Government Guys. So do you remember John Caldwell?
Yes.
He used to call you Teresa Abdul-Jabbar. Do you remember
that? No. See? I have nicknames I don't even know of.
All these nicknames. So there's our shout out to John Caldwell.
Oh, what an intro. Never heard
of that. What an intro, yeah. So he's out there like, what the heck? And you're like, what? All these nicknames. No, I appreciate you, Teresa. So Teresa is a former federal employee, and I wanted to sit down with her because how many years did you work for the government?
Just shy of 34 years, 33 years and 10 months.
33 years and 10 months. Wow, that's quite a career.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa, is there anything, so why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of yourself and then the career, like what you did when you worked for the government?
All right. So but before that, I'm from San Antonio, born and raised, west side of San Antonio. And not too far from Kelly.
There you go.
But I didn't have any family members that worked on the bases, though. So that was, I think, first generation government service here. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. My uncle worked for the government as well.
Okay.
But born and raised in San Antonio, went to school just up the street at UT Austin. Went to Memorial High School. Had to plug that in. UT Austin, and I graduated in 1987. And then I started working in February 8th, 1988.
Oh, wow.
With the federal government. And I started with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Again, civil engineer background, bachelor degree. So it's like, why not? So
right.
I submitted my applications at various places, but was offered a job with the Corps of Engineers in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
Quite a long ways from home. 1980s, inflation was high, not a lot of jobs out there. So to me, in my mind, it's like, well, it's the East Coast or West Coast.
Yep.
And I was hoping for California, but ended up in the East Coast, so Norfolk, Virginia. Worked there a couple years. Then I got married right after college. So my husband couldn't find a job. Again, the market was not.
There was the recessions in the 80s.
Exactly. So he got a job in Baltimore, right? So I said, oh, don't worry about it. There's an Army Corps of Engineers office in Baltimore. No problem. But it wasn't like a easy transfer.
Right.
You had to, and then back in those days, no internet, no U.S. Jobs.
USA Jobs.
Right? Nothing like that. It was the SF 171. It was this green form.
Yep.
Had to mail it in, and was not easy getting transferred because there wasn't such a thing as transfer. You had to actually get a job. Right. It's like a standalone agencies.
Right.
Even though it's the same thing, it's a standalone agency. So, but was able to get that offered over a year. I think I spent a year and a half in Norfolk, Virginia, and then went to Baltimore. And I was in the intern program.
Okay.
It was called the JET program, the Junior Engineer in Training
Oh, wow.
program. So it was a JET program. So I was in the intern program in Norfolk, didn't finish it. Then I moved on to Baltimore. And part of the program, you got to have little assignments in each of the directorates.
Yep.
Also, I had a base assignment. So I didn't do my base assignment in Norfolk. I did it. No, I did. I had a base assignment in Norfolk, and it was in the Hampton Roads area. Oh my gosh, I forgot the base.
Eustis?
No, it was
Langley?
Langley.
Yes.
So I did like a month assignment at Langley, their construction office. So that was interesting.
Home of the first fighter weight. Go ahead.
There you go, plug. And then in Baltimore, I went to, oh my gosh.
We'll edit this out.
Yes, we'll edit this out. But yeah, we did it. It was a small Army base outside of DC.
Oh,
And,
I know the one, but I'm
yeah.
not going to think of it either.
Oh, I don't know, but it was they had all kinds of research out there.
Yep.
There was an albino deer. Remember? Did you spot the albino deer out there?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Aberdeen was where I did another month there, and there I wasn't in the construction, so I had exposure in the construction at Langley, but at Aberdeen I worked in at the DPW.
Okay.
So in each of the sections, a master planning section and all. So that was interesting. You're bringing back memories.
I know.
So great time in Baltimore. I did find out a couple of things about me moving up there. I did not appreciate the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
So from San Antonio, love the hot weather. Thought I could, experience the Four Seasons. No. I did experience it. Did not a lover of it. Then I Corps of Engineers, mainly in the planning department is where areas is where I design and planning is
Right.
pretty much my career. So I did some rip-rap design.
Oh.
Yes. Flood and maybe on the civil side. So the Corps of Engineers has two main missions. One is supporting the military at the military bases. So you're then supporting the DPW, so to speak,
Right.
at the bases, or you're on the civil side where you're protecting the coastlines
Yes.
of the United States. So think about New Orleans and all the levees and flood walls there. So that is mainly where I worked at Baltimore. Scranton, Pennsylvania. They have some projects there. Very interesting. So that's what I did. Learn AutoCAD. Didn't learn AutoCAD in college. I think it was just up and coming in 1980s.
Yes.
So I think I only had one class, but it was a drafting class.
Right.
So with my Leroy tools, and
T-square.
Yes, it was fun. And before that, my summer jobs, I worked at the highway department in San Antonio.
Oh.
Yes, so I did cut and fill calculations for Highway 151.
Oh, yes.
And I think they called it the Taco Highway back then. Everybody, you have to have nicknames for everything. Okay. So and it's right there in my neighborhood, right around Cali Air Force Base, that where it started. So I did some cut and fill calculations for them. So, okay. So after Baltimore, I wanted to come back to San Antonio because so my mom was sick, so I wanted to come back, put in all these applications, and I got a job offer from Fort Sam Houston.
Yeah.
So it brought me to Fort Sam Houston, not the DPW. I worked for Major Tenant, the U.S. Army Medical Department Center and School.
Okay.
In their facility office, that was a liaison between the DPW and the tenant, which is the medical school. So that was one of the main tenants at Fort Sam was the hospital, medical command. We have BAMC and the medical school. So most of the Army medics get trained at, over 90% of them get trained all the basic trainees come through Fort Sam. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Going from an office type of work, doing planning and design work in Baltimore, and then coming to Fort Sam. It was a different mission. Then I was in the military mission, supporting the military and the medical mission.
Right.
And then
That brought you to San Antonio.
that brought me to 17 years at Fort Sam Houston.
Oh, wow.
And I had about 3 or 4 jobs, but I never, but it was through attrition. Like,
Right.
this job went away. So then I got moved here and I got moved. So from there, I was a medical. I then went to the DPW.
Okay.
Yes.
So who you were liaising with, you ended up.
Yes, because it became a medical command.
Yes.
And, why do we need a liaison office? We're all medical. We're all the same. So they did away with that office. 2-3 years later, it came back. But I was then at DPW. I was in master planning.
Okay.
So I worked in master planning. My last job there was the chief of housing, because Fort Sam privatized housing. Most of the bases got privatized, transformed into privatized housing. So we privatized housing at Fort Sam in 2002.
Right.
And they didn't want to dismantle the housing office because it had to be operational until the day of privatization. So they brought me as all like a project manager, one person.
Yep.
To work housing privatization. And at that time, about the mid-90s, 2002, so we privatized housing there, 925 houses. Engineering background. See, the difference between Army and Air Force is Air Force housing, they're all housing career people.
Right.
And in the Army, they'll just, engineers can head the housing office
do
there.
anything.
So yeah. So I kind of noticed that the Air Force was more structured in that sense. So Fort Sam, Joint Base San Antonio came along with BRAC.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember when. After 2005, 2006.
Right.
It's interesting in San Antonio. We have all these bases, but we don't talk to each other. The Army certainly didn't talk to the Air Force in their similar fields.
Right.
Not until we became Joint Base San Antonio. So at that time, in prepping and this is going to happen, we had to talk to each other. So I was the chief of housing at that point. So I had to talk to my counterparts at the other bases. And that's how I got introduced to a lot of the folks that worked at the Air Force.
Because you ended up working for the Air Force, right?
Yes, I got, after working 17 years working housing privatization, I applied for a job at Randolph.
Okay.
With ATC
Headquarters.
Working in the barrack.
Barracks, dorms.
Dorms.
Wait, what?
Oh, yes. Army calls them barracks. Air Force calls them dorms. So managing the dorm program for the Major Command, ATC. Yeah. That's how I ended up which was great because I lived in Schertz.
So it was cut the commute. That's right.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
All my sons were going to school there, so that was great. And then, of course, that job went away about 2015.
Part of a transformation.
Yes.
Right.
So
they centralized
the engineering. What did they centralize?
That was right. So they centralized door management, Milcon, the whole housing privatization side.
Yeah. So the major commands, the civil engineer, and the major commands
and that's
consolidated.
When AFCEC was created.
Yes,
right.
Was born, and because I'm in the same town.
Yeah.
I was able to apply. The jobs were there, and I eventually got hired. Yeah. Got lucky enough to get hired, and didn't work the housing program, but asset management.
So you came into asset management.
Yes.
Yeah. Air Force centralized. So this was part of, in multiple times, in the late, 2000s, 2006, 7, and 8. We had one kind of centralization effort where we centralized MILCON, and at AFC used to be the Air Force Center for Environmental Excellence and became the Air Force Center for Engineering and Environment. Um, they a lot of the kind of the line item appropriated programs were centralized at AFC, kind of the second version of AFC. And then I think it was 2014, it was PAD 1404, right, where they continued to centralize out of the MAGCOMs and created the Air Force Civil Engineer Center.
Yes.
Right. And so that's that transformation that brought you to the mothership.
Yes.
So
I actually got a pink slip, right?
Yeah.
I went TDY one day and came back. I get a pink slip because that's how it was working. Air Force is going to do this. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So what did you do? So when you say asset management, what does that mean? What was your job?
My job. Oh, when I started there, the dorm program. So I was doing the dorm program at AATC. So it was under the housing app, right?
Activity management plan.
Activity management for housing. So I was working under that umbrella. There was an actual housing app person, and I don't remember who that was.
Was it Ray Nee at the time?
No.
Okay. I don't know. I just knew Ray.
I can't remember. I mean, it wasn't my boss because the whole branch, there was another structure. Yes. But I was in support of the housing app, but working on the dorm side. So looking at the conditions of dorms and prioritization on, based on the conditions and what the bases were submitting, their priorities were. Right. What was that program that identified the condition of the facilities out of Florida?
Oh, the builder
and paver. Yes.
The SMS.
Yes.
The sustainment management system.
Sustainment management system. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It seemed like a long time ago. So working of helping out the bases, ensuring that they were inputting the information in that system so we could see the condition and the trends on their facilities. So when we would be making financial decisions, that we were ensuring that we were placing the money where it was actually needed. Right. Not necessarily at base A or at base B, but overall how they ranked in that structure.
Right. And part of the Air Force's reason for centralizing is, the numbers are always changing, but roughly 77, 75 major bases worldwide. And if you're at the base, like you only see your needs. My dorm's in terrible shape, or this isn't whatever. Yeah. But it may actually, you may think it's terrible shape, but it could actually be one of the better dorms in the Air Force. Yes. And so by having the builder and the sustainment management system, we could see across the enterprise, right? Who really had really good condition dorms, and then where did we need to make some catch-up investments, or just bring these other dorms up to standards. And I think you were in that job. That's when we met. Yes, because you were in that directorate, right? Were you my boss at that time? No, I came in as the planning division chief before I transferred over. Yes. Right. But you were already there working. Yes, I was there working. 2015 is when I started. That's right. So I'm not sure when you came in. I came in 2014. So I was over there doing the other conference planning and encroachment management. Right. So I have to ask, throughout your career, do you look back, is there a project or an effort that when you look back at your career that you think, wow, I had the biggest impact, or this was my favorite project? Anything that kind of comes to mind that, and the reason why I ask that is a lot of what we do as feds, especially in DOD and civilians, it's in support of the military. But what we do is kind of happens behind a curtain, right? The public thinks about the military, they go and fight and win our nation's wars. But there's a whole cadre of civilians and contractors that support the military that can go in and do that work. And I'm wondering if there's a project that you were a part of. I mean, you think about managing the dorms. I had chatted with Christine earlier, and the dorms are where our brand new recruits come in, right? So these are 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and we want to make sure that they've got safe and high quality places to live. So I managed dorms for just a little bit, but I think that was one of the more rewarding jobs that I had. Is there a job that you look back on and go, man, I really was glad that I was part of this job?
There's a couple, and one of them was when I worked at the Army Medical Department Center School, again, 17 years at Fort Sam Houston. The general at that time, the commander there at one time, wanted to increase the training of the basic medic.
Right.
And at one time, basic medic, they do everything. They stick the needle in your arm and oh my gosh, yeah. So, and you're getting the recruits who have no experience. So they're learning all that stuff then. So this General Peak actually had the vision of expanding that program and actually getting them accredited as well.
Right.
Where they can get out and they can go work, at the fire department as EMTs. So EMT certification, they were not EMT certified before that time.
Right.
So say the length of that course may have been, it was less than 10 weeks. It could have been 8 or 9 weeks. Basic medic come in 8 weeks intensive. He wanted to expand it, I'm not sure, 13, 14 weeks, whatever the weeks were. When you expand a program in time, that translates to more facilities.
Yes.
Because people are there longer and you want to have the same throughput. You want to have to train the same amount of people each year. But when you expand, so now if I'm leaving the class yesterday, the next class is coming in on Monday, you're still in the same facility. But when you have that bigger overlap, you're not necessarily doubling, but the instructors wanted to double because, hey, I have this classroom and I don't care if it's empty for 5 weeks, but I'm going to need it on that 6th week. So it was this whole planning effort on where we're going to put these students. And that was one of the main things about having this program be a success. So you can't do it. Yeah, you can get more instructors and all that, but you need the facilities.
That's right.
And you know how hard it is to get a Milcom project. Almost impossible.
Right.
But according to the paperwork, Fort Sam had enough facilities. Okay, albeit a lot of historic, it wasn't in best shape. So I looked into the old barracks. So the Army did back in the 1960s. They had these old barracks, but good structures, good bones. But what I found out is that they had low utilization rates.
Right.
Because the units were like owning.
Right. This is my dorm.
Yeah, this is my dorm, my barracks. My barracks,
Sorry,
right?
Army.
So my barracks. So I went in there, did some analysis, and I thought, if we can actually take over one of these buildings, good bones again, and convert it into classrooms,
right?
We can make this happen. But so I started with this plan and my boss loved it, right? So what do? I had no knowledge on where to go. Again, leadership, all these experience, right? Where do you go?
Yeah, how do I get this?
Yeah, how do I get this done? So then I would go on I would go to the barracks and I would go to these units and talk to them. They would literally throw me out of the room.
You don't mess with someone's building.
No, or space, or, you don't. So like, okay, so I had it there. And then one day, well, it was before the general had this idea. It's like, I already had identified, we had low utilization.
Right.
Because the master planner at the DPW was telling me that.
Right.
So he was feeding me this information. So I did my own analysis, like, yeah, you're right. But I couldn't get anywhere with it because I couldn't get the support. But when General Peak wanted to get this done, I said, ooh.
Yeah.
I dusted off those plans, updated the utilization rates. And I remember going in and briefing General Peak with all his commanders there, right? They started like throwing.
Oh, yeah. Flaming
yes.
arrows,
But I could tell General Peak had my back. And remember, okay, so structural ADSL, you know what ADSL, average daily student load. So for barracks, for dorms, even for Air Force dorms, student dorms, ADSL is a big number, right?
Right.
The average daily student load. That's what, we use to program how many dorms we need. Well, Army has a different term. It's called structural load.
Right.
Structural load, it doesn't make any sense. So when I was briefing General Peak about this, I remember it's like, what the structural load is this, and then he goes, what is structural load? I said, sir, and at that time, ITRO, if you remember, ITRO was the attempt by all the military to consolidate training. So before this integrate, so they were using the Air Force term of ADSL. So General Peak knew of ADSL because right before that, they were trying to move some medical courses to Shepherd, so a lot of the people knew of ADSL, the term. The Army knew it better than what the Army term was, structural load. But I'm briefing General Peak, so I have to use Army terms.
Right.
So I'm using I have to memorize it, what is
this?
What is structural load? Oh, sir, it's ADSL. Got it. So then, we went on. I remember that, I'm going to get killed in this. So then everybody's throwing stuff at him, this and that. General Peak had to no, you have to answer that. No, you have to answer that. Because when I showed them that there was so much space in their barracks,
right,
and they were trying to throw stuff at me, figuratively, General Peak had my back because he wanted this program to be done.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the best success stories. I think the biggest that I helped make an impact because I helped identify, not that I did it, but I helped identify where the space was so they can do that program.
Yeah, because I know, going back to what you said a minute ago, facilities has just a different timeline than anything else. And commanders can come together, and this isn't a knock. They're just like, we're going to increase this. We're going to increase the pipeline because I can reach out and grab people and I can push them through the training. It's just classroom. It's just this. You're like, well, to your point, to get a new building, so MILCON's military construction, if you do it, if it's just kind of a regular way, it's about 10 years, right? So, and then by the time it's built to meet a requirement that's 10 years old, unless you can accelerate. And that's why, we're trying to find better ways, faster ways to kind of build fund and build our programs. But what you said, and I appreciate the depth of the story, because they're trying to train medics, right, and get them out the door and improve the quality of training. And oftentimes facilities, we have to...
It's an afterthought sometimes.
It is an afterthought.
It's an afterthought, but it should be way ahead.
You need that long lead time.
Yes.
And at the time, and my experience has been, sometimes we look like a barrier, right? It's we're going to do this. And you're
yes.
Well, on paper that looks great.
Yes.
But I can't build a building in 48 hours, right? But just having that planning, and he said, I dusted off the plans. You did that pre-work that allowed them to plus up faster.
And the master planner put that little
bug in your ear.
Bug in my ear. It's I'm going to use this. And, and he was right. It's and I'm here, please tell me, I'm trying to soak information. Tell me how to work things around, because I came from the Corps of Engineers doing something different. And this was something different. So, so, I got to respect him, over time. He was great guy. But then I realized later, as you learn, it's he was but he was trying to sell the stuff. It's but it doesn't make sense. You got all this space. So,
right.
But, and then I knew it was, I made a difference. Is that short time that General Peak was still there. Anytime I was, at calls or, got invited, to even Christmas parties or whatever it was, he would personally come and greet me.
Hey, Teresa.
Yes. So it's I knew I made a difference.
Yeah. When you get the attention of a general.
Yes. So that's how I knew.
Yeah. So let me ask you a quick question. when you look back at your career, because you worked in different places, is there a person that you kind of look back fondly and go, they helped kind of really guide my career or push you in a direction that helped you to have the successful career that you've had?
You know, I'm going to talk about the little people.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't realize until years later, there was at the DPW at Fort Sam Houston, again, I was there, DPW probably about 8 years. When I first got to the DPW, that's when I was in the career field of the civil engineers, right?
Yep.
Before that, I was an oddball in the medics, right? And it felt like MASH sometimes, you know. So you remember that TV show, you went from the Corps of Engineers to, it's like, oh, I think I'm in MASH. But anyway, when I kind of went back to my peeps, so to speak, in my career field, there was a training person there that would, because I believe when I got there it was a GS12 maybe, or GS11. No, as a GS11.
Yeah.
But apparently, you know, there were professional development. So that's the first time I saw professional development, and was talked about professional development. And she was pushing, like, she saw me, because there weren't really a lot of, there were some 13s and some 12, but there was 11 was still, maybe I was a 12, it doesn't matter. But she would come to me and encourage me, like, hey, all these available courses, professional development, all these, and like, what? So it's like, and there were free, you know, you had 1 or 2 per year.
Right.
So she did, I believe, made a difference for me, because then I started taking those courses, and then, you know, like, you know, got to know myself, you know, when you go to those leadership classes, they're not the boondoggle.
No, not a boondoggle. We'll talk about the
boondoggle later, yes. But they were really insightful. I never thought I would go into leadership. I just leave me alone. I was one of those, just leave me alone. I want to do my work. You know, I'll do the grunt work. Stay in my office. Don't talk. Oh, meetings? No, I didn't like any of that. Just let me do my calculations and my analysis. And I was happy with that. But when she introduced it and I started to go here and there, I think that was made a difference in my trajectory. Because when I got to the Air Force, no one knew me. Right. But what did the Air Force have was also professional development and higher education. Right. So I got my master's online through the Air Force, and I recognized that, you know what, in order to be recognized, because I'm not known on the Air Force side, is I need to put those down in my resume. To get noticed.
Got to work a little harder.
Yeah, work a little bit hard. Exactly. So I think that sent me to that trajectory, and like identifying, and it's like, oh, leadership, you know, these are the pathways. So that kind of stuck with me. Yeah. So it's the little people.
That's right. The folks that kind of just open doors for you.
Yes.
Right.
I think that was a.
Yeah. So we'll kind of wrap this session up for right now.
Okay.
Teresa, I want to thank you for stopping by and kind of chatting with us. And I want to thank you for your service. You've done outstanding work. We work together. We'll talk about that in a minute. But just wanted to just give you a chance to kind of tell folks a little bit about yourself and what you did.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for coming in. Hey, Robert Rushing here, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce Bo Bloomer. He's with the Checkmate Realty Group, and let Bo tell you a little bit about what it is he does.
So we're super excited to be able to continue to help folks. I'm retired Air Force, and you talk about your service, and one of the things that we do now is that we're able to continue our service by helping folks find homes, find a house that their family can make a home. We're here across all of DC, Virginia, and Maryland. And what's great is that individuals moving in from all the different locations, as well as people here that might be downsizing or even maybe looking for an investment, something like that. We're kind of all your real estate needs, your one-stop shop. So looking forward to help out individuals. One of the things that we often will talk about is that if individuals have not moved in the area yet, we can help you out by being your boots on the ground and walk through and do FaceTime videos or any kind of thing like that, so that you can see a home if you're interested in that. Other than that, we are also super adept at picking up folks at the airport if you're coming out for a house hunting trip. Matter of fact, I've got one tomorrow with an individual coming out from Arizona. Pick you up at the airport, drive you around. You can look at different areas. We can give you a different sense of like this little town or that little town, so that you can really find a place you fall in love with and that your family's going to have a wonderful place to make a home.
All right. And as a customer, I can say this. When we moved to the NCR, it was a change of agency for me. The family was stressing, in the middle of the pandemic. And one thing we didn't have to worry about the house because we knew that you were going to take care of us. And so, Bo, I thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Robert. It was an absolute pleasure working with you, and being able to help out folks is the top of our game. We love doing that.
All right. Hey, Robert Rushing here, one of the old government guys, and today I've got the privilege of sitting down with Mr. Gary Jackson. Gary, I just had a question for you. Throughout your government career, did you ever find yourself in a humorous moment, something that you could share with the folks?
Oh, yes, I did. This is when I was working at CMERT here at Kelly, and we had a staff visit coming up on the following week. And so our boss, Dave Christensen, decides that we need to be in this place working and cleaning everything up. And those times I didn't like them at all. I always looked for some way to get out of this because it didn't make any sense. Why didn't we do it the week before? But we had a foreman, his name was Bruce Goodwill, and he loved woodworking. And so they're going to put in a new office at this same time. Now, everybody's all happy because they're going to be cutting wood and stuff. I got a lot of other things I'd rather be doing. And it happened to be on April Fool's Day, April 1st. And I had told some guys some of the things that happened to me on April 1st and when I was at Canon. That's too deep to go into. But,
yeah.
But anyway, we're standing around having a little break. And I looked at these guys and I said, today is April Fool's. We cannot let David get by without something happening because David wasn't there. He's off with his family doing the things that he wanted to do. And we're all there working and painting and building an office. And so they said, well, what do you think we should do? And I said, I'm going to call him up and tell him that Bruce, he needs a call because Bruce, we had to take him to Wilford Hall, which is the emergency center there at Lackland Air Force Base. We had to take Bruce to the emergency center because he got his hand cut up in the saw. And so I call, there's nobody there at the house. So I leave a message on his messaging machine and told him, call me as soon as you can. So some hours go by and I do it again. And same thing, he's not home yet. So I enliven the detail a little bit and tell him, you need to call as soon as you possibly can. And so later on, this other guy, I told him, look, you're going to have to call also because if it's just me, he's going to
it's going to be like, it's a joke.
So he did also. And he said, Mr. Christensen, please get over here as soon as you possibly can. So then forgot about it. Now, this is about 6 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to close up. And Bruce, the foreman, he goes, hey, did you ever call David and tell him that was just a joke? And I said, oh, no, I guess I better. So, so I called and exactly like this. I said, David, I hate to be the one to bring you this news. And I kind of waited and a little dramatic effect there and just went, April Fools, and hung up the phone. Now, his wife, Jody, told me later on that they came home and the first thing he did was hit the message machine.
Yeah.
And he heard that and he's going, oh my gosh. And then the next one comes up and it's getting worse and worse and worse. He grabs his keys and then she's going, wait, there's one more. And the other guy that called also, he's hearing that one. He says, oh my gosh, I got to get to this for cell phones and everything.
Yeah.
So he says, I got to get to Wilford Hall. And then he's walking to the door, and that last one comes on. And that.
We'll bleep that out. Yeah, no. Yeah.
He threw the keys and broke the window.
Oh my gosh.
At his house. So that was one of them.
Oh yeah.
It was good to get David though.
Yeah, so that's the thing is we work hard, we play hard.
Right,
you know, and you know, no matter where you go, you've got folks that are, you know, like, oh, you guys are horsing around. It's hard to horse around when you're pulling 14-hour days, 12-hour days, you know. But at the same time, if you don't have an outlet, it'll make you crazy.
Yeah. Some of the most fun times I had was on a line crew.
Yeah.
You know, because you got to mess around with something.
That's right. Well, thanks for sharing that story. I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks,
really
Gary.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
All right. Take care. And there you have it. We just wrapped up another episode of The Old Government Guys, a Rapid Point studio production. We're always on the lookout for new folks to highlight, so if you know someone who deserves to be recognized, let us know. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out and send us a note at ogg@rapidpointstudio.com. Old Government Guy Robert here. Just wanted to thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to like, follow, or subscribe, and make sure you tell a friend about the show. It's our goal to be your third favorite podcast, so keep the suggestions coming in as we work to mature our platform. And once again, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Robert here. If you find yourself traveling down I-40 in eastern Oklahoma and you need a quiet place for the night, stop in and see my friends Kelly and Jody at Ambassador's Inn and RV Park, where they aim to provide you three things: a clean room, your restful night's sleep, and probably a wacky story, because Kelly is full of them. But don't, and I repeat, do not let him tell you a joke. He's terrible at jokes. Kelly and Jody aim to provide a clean, quiet, uneventful stay. Ambassador's Inn and RV Park is an American-owned and operated small business where your peace and comfort are their top priority. You'll find Ambassador's Inn and RV Park at exit 278, where a safe and homely atmosphere awaits. Be sure and tell them the Old Government Guy sent you. For more information, you can find Ambassador's Inn and RV on Facebook, or give them a call at 918-463-3727. Oh man, that was terrible.
But it was good enough for government work, man.
No. Yeah.